There we go. Hi, everyone. This might be about Antonio Inoki, or it might be a chat. We're gonna. Oh, Dylan, he's your dick. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming to you live from where I always broadcast, the corner of my living room. Dylan is broadcasting from what seems to be either his living room.
Yeah, our living room.
Finally allowed inside.
We're
First
inside.
Oh my God.
Well, I did the math, and I was like, because my son's in daycare sometimes now, so it's like I'm just recording in the garage just for some reason now, truly. So I just moved one light inside, and we're set up, baby.
I thought you just liked it in there.
In the garage? The garage is very freeing.
Yeah, it feels like it's your space. I'm very excited.
Look at this clean wall. It disgusts me.
Yeah,
look at this couch.
Soft for your back.
Since I'm a family man, I've fucking beat off on this couch like twice. You know how crazy it is to own a couch and only beat off on it twice. And it was like, and when you have a family, you're like, fuck, I can't even like accidentally nut on this couch. You got to be like fucking. You got to get all the nut. You gotta fucking basically jack off in a raincoat and then nut specifically on the raincoat.
This is a weird thing of I think I've nutted one time on. I know I've never jacked off on the sofa that I have now. Here's
my favorite thing. I think I've talked to you about this, but this is the Alex Wood test. Very funny comedian.
This is the greatest thing you've ever said.
Thought experiment. This is the greatest thought experiment for men ever. When is the last time you jacked off lying down, John?
Friday.
See? You're a man of leisure.
Certainly am.
If you, I literally can't recall the last time I always jack off standing up because I'm fucking ready to run, buddy.
You gotta go.
I got a meeting.
You got things.
But that's not even true because I used to like jacking off a lot before work just so I'd be like late for work and the people would be like, I was like, oh, I saw I got cut up, and then I'd be like in my head, be like, nutting.
Okay, so this is a thing that I've been trying to turn into stand-up for 2 years, but it's too creepy for people to admit, which is I'm gonna say 60% of the time a man is late, it's because he looked at his watch and went, I gotta be out of here in 5 minutes. I can fully jack off. and
then you get too into it.
Yeah, you got too into it. You can't find the video that's really speaking to you.
Let's say 60% under 22. Or maybe it's just us.
I
feel like a lot of guys would be like very.
Here's why
that would be interesting to post online because either it would take off and a lot of people would be like on board, or it wouldn't take off. Like that would be the type of video where you would need to hire a troll farm to get like 1,000 likes, because if it was at 1,000, it would get to 1 million. But if it wasn't at 1,000, it would never get anywhere.
You're 100%, because here's how I figured this
out. It's like when you go into a comedy club and go, who watches porn, and the most hacky thing is to be like, oh, it's just me. But like, no one wants to be like, fucking yeah.
It's
the great gets throated because she's stuck.
It's the great thought experiment of Los Angeles, because there's a whole because what no one talks about LA is there's a whole section of the town is where they make all the porn. So if you're in that part of town, just wearing a fucking loose shorts. So, you will see porn stars, and it's the greatest thing to just see people pretending not to recognize them.
Oh man, and
who could that
was
be?
Like the fucking. I would arrive early to a show when you could smoke. What's weird because weed is legal in Canada now, but you cannot smoke inside. And when it was illegal, you could smoke inside because the cops just didn't give a shit. But there was a place you could smoke inside, not one of the good ones. It's called Vapor Central, and there's a strip club right next to it. And the show would start at 9. And all the strippers would get on shift seemingly at like 8. So you would see just clearly strippers and comedians in a Starbucks. And it was like every comedian was like, I'll have the smallest coffee because I need to sit here. And every stripper was like, I'm getting the biggest fucking drink. You're putting fucking whipped cream on it. And you know what? I'm going to get extra shots. Just pour them down the drain. I got money. I don't fucking... fuck you.
This is all cash. Wait, was Vapor Central... Vapor Central was Bloor... And Clandestiny was next to, because they were both technically next to strip clubs. Just one Clandestiny.
Oh yeah, I guess it was close to Jilly's, wasn't it?
Close. Okay. Oh my God, so close to Jilly's. My favorite of all, one of my many favorite
Jilly's is dope.
Was seeing a stripper walk out of there. Farmer sneeze into a gutter. Just go fuck, and then just walk back in.
Here's what I liked about Jilly's was one time
amateur night. That's what I liked about it.
Amateur night was my friend Ryan once went to amateur night, and a girl was hammered up there, and he was like, I swear to God, we made eye contact, and she was like, couldn't think of anything to do, so she did the funky chicken for not a full 2 seconds, but just started to and then bailed on it. And then he just stood up and yelled, "I know. I know." He was laughing so hard. He's like, "I know. We shared a moment," which is funny to yell. And everyone thought he was just being weird to say we shared a moment. But he was like, "No, because she did something." But everyone else in the club was like, clearly like, "She's not in love with you, dude." So she really won that encounter still.
Question, Dylan. Are we going to do Antonio Inoki, or are we recording again before Sunday, and this will just be a chat episode?
No, we're doing Antonio Inoki. I guess we could record tomorrow on Friday.
I cannot record tomorrow because I'll be flying to Bristol, Virginia.
Bristol, Virginia. I was really excited for you, and then you put Virginia in there.
I'm going to tell you, I've been to Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee before. Let me tell you about this town and why I love it. 1, it is in 2 states at the same time. 2, the gas station has a casino in it.
Does the casino have a gas station?
No, it is very much a gas
mostly
station.
gas station, and
It's
then there's
mostly,
like some slot machines.
I am surprised I didn't take a. Oh, I know why I didn't take a photo. The last time I was there was a week after my friend passed away, and I was so sad. I befriended a stray cat and had a big cry in a natural amphitheater behind a bunch of the shops. Anyway, it's a 1-street town with businesses on either side, and then it's just in the middle of Virginia and Tennessee, and it is fucking wild. It is the best. I fucking love the South, except for one glaring issue: the food, and of course the racial disharmony.
No. Get those grits off my fucking plate.
Yeah, that is my only complaint about this area is you guys keep putting greens on my plate, and they listed a moisture. I do not want to touch my potatoes. Also, and this is the best thing is, do you remember those really ridiculous coffee shops that were in like Toronto in like 2010 that were called like Splash, and like the joke of like, what is this, a $5 coffee or whatever?
Okay.
Those places are now in super rural places because like they've saturated and that's just what a coffee shop is.
Yeah.
So you get what someone in rural Tennessee thinks is like a hipster urban coffee shop. Real good stuff. Full bowl of smashed avocado. Piece of toast, bowl of smashed avocado. How it should be done, by the way. Put your own avocado on your toast, you prick. You're trusting some fucking shelf. He doesn't know how much avocado you want. And let me tell you who also wasn't sure about how much avocado he wanted, and that was Antonio Inoki. Holy shit.
Do you think he lived and died not knowing what an avocado is? I don't know. I haven't visited Japan. I don't know about... It's probably bad to... Well, I guess, does it have a climate you could grow avocados in?
I think that definitely... I'm basing this purely off of the fact that I've had a lot of avocado roll sushi.
He is also
that I would assume that
healthy enough that he would be like, oh, this is a good fat. He's one of those guys where it's like, wow, you don't eat enough fat that you need to be like, oh, this is a good fat. I can put this in my diet. Where it's like, I'll get fat from the chips. Thank you.
Antonio Inoki is a fascinating personality in that he is basically he's what Vince McMahon actually always wanted to be, is that he's this super imposing physical presence who basically his entire wrestling career from the formation of New Japan to his death was him winning or him thinking that people thought he could win, and then he just died in glory.
Yeah. We touched on it briefly, but it's like he's like unchecked Vern Gagne, where it's like, oh wait, people just are totally on board with me winning shit. I'll just keep on winning shit.
Yeah, is it possible for... Oh, that's good. That just is an opening. It's very interesting also is that, and you can show that he's even more Vern Gagne than Vern Gagne, and that he made sure his kids did not get involved in the business. I assume his kids are dead.
He started an outlaw promotion. That's what New Japan was. It was an outlaw promotion because he only had Karl Gotch, and basically the NWA went with All Japan.
Of course they did. Why wouldn't you go with All Japan? You want a thin Giant Baba? Someone very interestingly pointed out what Giant Baba's problem was, but why he was so successful, which was how it was Dutch Mantel. Can I just say this, by the way? Everyone stop listening to our podcast. Stop listening to all other wrestling podcasts. Just watch Dutch Mantel's videos on YouTube. It's what we've all wanted from wrestling podcast forever. Just a man chewing on a cigar. And let me tell you, he's not a weird creep. He's not constantly bringing up the ladies' thongs. He's just talking about who is a dick with so much. I've never seen someone get facial hair dandruff before. God bless that man. And he was talking about that.
This is the thing, is that if you wanted like a real wrestling podcast, like an actual wrestling podcast, that is what like I would say the most reputable source for information, and no one's gonna like this, but early Tony Schiavone, where he would just be asked by Conrad Thompson about something, and he'd be like, I don't know, I don't fucking remember that.
Yeah, no, the early the What Happened When podcast is one of those things where, and it's something that's not going to be discussed, is bad podcasts actually immediately become art because what is causing them to be bad is so crazy that no one stopped this from happening, that this is put out, that it's literally like, so Hulk Hogan joined the WCW in 1994. How do you feel about that, Tony? Was that 94? Holy shit, I was cheating on my wife with her sister that entire year while Conrad Bill was fully shitting in my wife's blender. So I don't remember. I assume something happened. It was probably fine. Like that podcast was crazy, and that was also the time when we were so like literally wrestling podcasting was just us all sitting around being like, "Did you hear what Bruce Pritchard just said? He went after someone for chicken salad." And now, like Bruce Pritchard's literally,
well, also like clearly putting his health at risk by doing so much work. Anyway, who gives a fucking shit about Bruce Pritchard?
I do.
Let's talk
I
about
mean, here's the interesting thing about Antonio Inoki versus Giant Baba, and this is what to be is Giant Baba. The reason why I think the NWA wanted to work with him and American wrestlers loved working for All Japan is his entire strategy was build up a roster of monsters, and how those monsters were built up was, and this was like known in the business from Dutch Mantel, is that Stan Hansen or Bruiser Brody will literally just beat the living fuck out of you, and that looks really, really good and scary. And then eventually, once in a while, they just lose to Giant Baba, and the entire crowd is like, holy shit, thank fucking God for this fucking thin guy being able to beat up these fucking assholes. Oh, saved us again. And so Inoki was able to be an alternate to that by just presenting vaguely competitive matches, and also like the guy at the top had a really handsome body and chin and wasn't like weirdly thin and looked like a baby who's come to life. Like Giant Baba is one of the most if you see, he literally looks like a little baby. Like you have a baby,
giant baby.
Your son and Giant Baba in a ring would look the same. Just two unsure-footed things, you know what I mean, with the little runny legs.
And it's also funny to be like, "Oh, he's an athlete for what sport? Baseball." Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, no. You need to actually specify. He's an athlete, baseball player. Oh my God, he must be jacked. No, baseball player from the 50s. Oh my God.
That's the one sport where it's still totally fine to be fat, where it's like, oh, the fat actually helps.
That's not true. It's now because of steroids. They've ruined baseball. People need to know. Baseball used to be the best. It used to be two guys that look like me and Dylan, and we'd be the stars of the team. Dylan because he can fucking hit it right out of the fucking diamond, and me because I'm just on coke. That was the other thing that was great about baseball. Most boring game done by coke. I'm telling you,
still the Blue Jays' two best players are fat guys.
Are they really?
They were in the playoffs.
We're in the playoffs.
Three best players are fat guys.
Am I one? Are you one of the best
Vladimir
players?
Guerrero Jr. is fat. Oh my God, Alejandro Kirk is fat, and Alex, forget his last name, but I really should know. The pitcher is fat. They're all fat.
Alex,
they're all fat. Like,
and
not
Ball?
Even like, oh, this guy's kind of fat. Just like literally, just like that's the best thing about.
If they had to be a wrestler, which one wrestler are they?
There's two Eddie Kingstons and one fucking, I don't know, man. But two of them are flat out. No, Eddie Kingston honestly is thinner than Alejandro Kirk.
We are going to talk about Antonio Inoki in a second, but first I want to say this: Eddie Kingston is a very specific type of Toronto Husky in that he is he's done a bunch of planks in garages while drinking with his friends, so he's got a really powerful core, but does nothing else. And then I'm like, yeah, that deserves to be on the Toronto Blue Jays. So Antonio Inoki, he has launched his empire. He's running around. He's fighting people. He's really bad at his job.
Well, he starts oddly a lot in the way that I think that AEW did, where Inoki's clearly the star. The first thing he does is lose to Karl Gotch to give Karl Gotch the title. And they do a great rating, and their first show to draw 10,000 fans is in October, and they started in March. So it's like they do quickly, and also like weirdly, I think this shows that since New Japan was more sold on like this new style of wrestling, it really does go to say like if there's a new style of wrestling and it makes sense, then just build a promotion around that style because it will succeed.
I actually have to also say this is something that's very much done in Japanese wrestling, which is they've sort of been stolen by the WWE's need for eras. But I also love that Japanese wrestling now kind of stipulates itself via styles. And I guess Antonio Inoki gave us that launch by like, okay, All Japan is white guy beats up everyone, little baby beats him. Antonio Inoki is going to be like strong chin man has competitive match with racist.
The Tick wins.
Yeah, exactly.
His second big opponent is Johnny Powers.
Yes, Johnny Powers.
And this is very interesting. Is there's one picture of the wrestler and then a bunch of pictures of the singer. So that lets you know about Johnny Powers.
Yeah, he was an excellent singer. This also gave New Japan ties to Mike LaBelle's Los Angeles promotion, which was very short-lived because they started a working relationship with Vince Sr. in 1975, which resulted in Andre the Giant coming over to Japan, and I assume doing all those things that we've heard about, like Hulk Hogan walking by the open window of Andre's hotel room, and he was fucking 2 Japanese girls, and he quote-unquote said it looked like a lion attacking 2 gazelles.
I mean, here's the thing. What hotel has open windows to the fucking street? Like, was he walking on the 30th floor? Man, Hulk Hogan's the best liar.
He's the best liar. What's also very good
is he makes up the worst
lies. But this is the thing with people that are compulsive liars. I had a compulsive liar in my life for many years. Here is the thing with them. They are the worst liars. Like, it's always like,
because there's so many of them.
But also,
the sheer volume.
Keep them straight. Just keep them straight.
Yeah, man. Right? Have a book.
Yeah, write it down. Keep it evidence. It's so fucking funny.
That's when Brando couldn't make it, so that's when I accompanied Robert Evans to the premiere of The Godfather, brother.
Yeah. Let me say this, dude. The year, dude, was 1975, dude. And Andre the Giant, dude, he was looking for new opponents, dude. And I, dude, had just seen a Godzilla movie, dude. So I suggested, dude, Andre, dude, why don't you go to Japan, dude, and fight, dude, Godzilla, dude. He did. And that was the 3rd movie, dude. Rocky 3, which I was in, dude.
And that was a documentary called Godzilla, brother.
What do you think it's like to be Hulk Hogan's girlfriend? Like, because she has to know this is all bullshit. Like, she's just sat next to him.
There's some people that are just fucking... They just don't question shit, and they just fucking...
Where are these people?
Down.
Because I got news for you. You know what I have in my life, and I feel like you have a lot in your life as well? The exact opposite. The always question. Why are you making that
you
banana?
tell 50 people something, 49 of them are think it's bullshit, and one person will be like, yes. And I think, honestly, Hulk Hogan, people say that, obviously, he maxed out his earning potential as a professional wrestler, which I'm certain he did. But, like, Hulk Hogan... now, like in this era right now, is a millionaire, 9 million followers, Instagram, the left hates him. He's like, I'm just an independent. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group, though. I'm independent. Like, that's what fucking Hulk Hogan is going to be now. He's the liver king now. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
He really undersold how much he could do. Just like
by the way,
lies plus the internet.
Yes. Anyone who listens to the podcast, just Google I believe it's a Wired article where they go to the Liver King's house. It's real good. Real good stuff.
So anyway, 1975, he has
1975, baby, it's
bolstered
crazy.
by his relationship with Vince Sr. 1973, he was standing in front of a department store when he was viciously assaulted by Tiger Jeet Singh, an unknown in Japan. This was an angle. It was so unusual that it was covered as if it were actually a shoot. It wasn't until June 26, 1974, when the two actually had a match, when it resulted in Inoki breaking Singh's arm with an armbar, thereby establishing the move as a real submission move in Japan. And on October 14th...
I find it really interesting that Japan has this reputation for much more serious wrestling, and it's a guy who came to the ring with an actual sword, attacks a guy in front of a department store, and then it's actually like... I think it's just they just do crazy stuff way more seriously. In that, like, DDT wouldn't work in the States because people would be like wink, while DDT works in Japan because it's like, no, that little girl might beat Kenny Omega.
And it's also like Tiger Jeet Singh, yes, had a sword, but the other thing is like Tiger Jeet Singh's so smart to be like, hey, no one will work with this New Japan thing that's coming up. But really, they have like this is like. I guess a bad example would be if Rock and Austin, one of them split off. Let's say Inoki's Austin split off and made his own promotion that was like, I only have Stone Cold Steve Austin to help me win this promotion. And then he was like, all right, I'm some wrestler. I'm just going to go to where Stone Cold Steve Austin is because he needs opponents. And then we're just going to fucking...
We have this example, by the way. It's Hulk Hogan. It's Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan basically... Hulk Hogan is shitty Antonio Inoki, and WCW is New American Pro Wrestling. And
I don't think so.
Yes,
WCW had so much talent.
They
had so much fucking talent. Okay, who's Sting? Who's Sting in New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Antonio Inoki.
So, wait a minute. Hogan comes over to New Japan.
And becomes Sting at the same time.
Sting, like, there's literally nothing.
You are right that Antonio Inoki, it's just him. But what I more mean is...
I feel like if AEW started with just John Cena.
Oh,
like
my
AEW
God.
and John Cena.
By the way, what a promotion that would have been. 2 hours on TV, just John Cena freestyle rapping for the first week. Next week ends with they just hit Adam Page's theme music. You don't even see him come out. And John Cena's so unafraid he starts putting clothing on. Week after that,
I guess it was like if AEW was like what he wants, what CM Punk wanted it to be, was just him versus like people.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be. Is if AEW was just CM Punk, first week was just CM Punk eating vegan food, talking about how much better it was for you.
Oh yeah, like a fucking loser.
Yeah, chicken's just fat, salmon's just fat.
And just making political statements. And anytime someone was like, "Didn't you say this?" they were thrown out of the building.
Yeah, exactly.
1974, New Japan lured Strong Kobayashi, the international heavyweight champion, top star of the IWE promotion, to New Japan without dropping his title. After the announcement of the Dream match, which was also the first Japanese versus Japanese championship main event since the early 50s, it became clear Kobayashi had jumped because he was stripped of the title by the IWE before the match itself took place on March 19th. Inoki winning in another legendary encounter. The match did 28 million viewers.
Holy
in
fucking shit!
Now,
This is the other thing.
Population of Japan in
this is the other thing that's so fucking fascinating is all of this stuff is on television. It's not closed circuit. It's not that sort of stuff. Bear in mind also for a lot of the tours or live shows, there is a potential that New Japan and All Japan are running at the same time. Like the competition was so intense. If one of them ran a show in a city, the other one was running a show in that city on the same day.
Also, so the population in Japan was 110 million. So that's an estimated like 1 in 5 people are watching that.
Good fucking God.
That's fucking crazy. But I mean, it's a big fight. And when wrestling was unequivocally better when people thought it was real.
Yeah.
Because you had the base of people who actually thought it was real and then more people that thought this is fake, but let's get into it. Who cares? I
still think my favorite time of people, which is, they got to fake it. Hogan's too strong. Those are my favorite fans. He's too strong. If they didn't fake it, he'd be dead. Aren't you happy he's faking it?
He'd fucking kill people.
Yeah, it's either so you want them to do this so he would kill him. Okay, yeah, I guess that's fine.
But that's the whole thing is you want guys like Brock Lesnar and to a certain extent Roman Reigns, guys who like make you lose your who suspend your disbelief, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the one thing about Logan Paul. It's like when Logan Paul had that match with Roman Reigns, yes, he is very good at the act of professional wrestling, but as soon as you see the match started, you're like, I can appreciate Logan Paul's very good at this. My disbelief is now like...
I'm actually surprised no one has said this, which is why the fuck didn't they just have Logan Paul? And it's because Logan Paul wouldn't agree to it, but they should have just had Logan Paul. It's Logan Paul, Brock Lesnar. What's going to happen? We're all going to get what we all wanted. Logan Paul's about to get the shit kicked out of him.
But truly, like he would have just like actually just been suplexed 7 million times.
Yeah, he would have just been murdered.
It's great.
Brock Lesnar would have used him as a fucking toothpick.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you want because like Logan Paul is like he's very lean and tall and like obviously in great shape, but he's not like really muscular. So then you get the difference of like. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a chat. Anyway, many say Inoki greatest match was the 60-minute 2 out of 3 fall match with Billy Robinson on October 7th, 1975, before a sellout 13,000 at Sumo Hall. This was billed to a rematch, but Baba offered Robertson the unheard of sum of $8,000 per week to jump to All Japan. $8,000 per week is still fucking good.
That's pretty good. And what year?
This is 75.
Whoa, that's like that's $80,000.
No, per week. That's $400,000 a year.
$400,000 a year in 1974. That's over $1 million. Yeah.
That's a lot for a guy who just is like, if I can grab your dick. I'm a shooter. Here's what that means. It means you come down to Wigan, and then I pin you down, and then I
$48,000 a week. He was being paid 48. He was being paid more than a teacher's salary a week by Giant Baba to fuck the chin. This is awesome.
Yes. As part of the deal, Robin had to lose the 2 out of 3 fall match to Baba in the first match, with the idea proving that Baba was better than the top stars of the IWE or New Japan, who could never beat Robinson. In his career in Japan, while he did lose to Countout a few times, including to Jumza Tsuruta, Robinson was the only person. Baba was the only person who Robinson ever lost cleanly to, which that's fucking crazy. Hey, I'll lie on your back, and then you come down to Wigan, and I watch you fuck my mom.
I love Japanese wrestling for no other reason than this.
Yes.
It is somehow even pettier than American wrestling. And American wrestling is this is so petty, Dylan. Like literally just.
But this is the thing. Everyone fucking talks about Vince McMahon. Oh, how could he do that? Blah, blah, blah. Giant Bob is doing the exact same playbook, and everyone's like, Giant Bob was one of the greatest bookers of all time. It's the exact same thing.
Because they just don't know anything about him. That's the thing with wrestling is just don't
Goldberg,
learn.
Okay, WWE, you're coming over to WWE, pal. Glad to have you. What do you want me to do, Vince? Well, first thing comes out, you suck my fucking dick. You can't even get me hard. I kill you, you're really dead. What? No, that's just a euphemism. Anyway, here's my fake gun.
We've just signed Bill Goldberg. Bill, this is Kanye West. Kanye, tell Bill what you think of him and his people.
This is a really cool idea. New Japan has the first martial arts title. I would love it if there was like a wrestling title.
So do I.
Let's fucking I think they
Control your narratives. Intercontinental title should be the martial arts belt. Just
where it's like separate event, separate tickets you sell, and it's literally you just recreate Street Fighter. And just have fans that can stand in the background while these guys fucking fight, and you film it on a line like it's 2D.
I'll have you know that WWE already has that intellectual property. It's called The Battle of the Tough Guys, and it was featured in a little movie called No Holds Barred.
No, it was no, because they tried. What the fuck was that thing called? Where Shane McMahon was there, Raw Underground. Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot about Raw. That was in like the late '90s.
In the late 90s.
When was Raw Underground?
That was recent.
Then I'm confusing. What am I thinking of?
Shotgun Saturday Night?
I'm thinking of Shotgun Saturday Night. Sorry. Where they did it in a nightclub, and there was nuns there for some reason. The very brief time in the 90s when it was really edgy to just have a nun somewhere.
I do love the idea of fucking like knockout or submission, no pins, and then it's just like. And then you get fucking me coming.
Then Steve Steve Blackman. Then Steve Blackman wins again.
Yeah, that's funny about Steve Blackman. He's like a fucking trained a UFC champion or something.
He's trained more than one UFC champion. Also the story of him fighting the Big Show from his back is one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my life.
Because he's so boring, but it's like, yeah, of course he can really fight. The most boring guys are the best fighters.
Yeah, he's just been busy reading about pressure points.
So Inoki knocked out, but actually didn't. That's how wrestling works. 2-time Olympic judo gold medalist, who at the time was considered a top judo player, judo, in the world. After 3 back suplexes, Inoki, beating the judo champion, was supposed to give him the athletic credibility in the United States media. But since the American media at the time figured Inoki must have been a sumo wrestler since he was Japanese and had no understanding of judo or Ruska, while the clips aired on news programs and wrestling shows around the country, Ruska really didn't mean anything that much outside of Japan. Where he's like, surely they'll think take me serious now. So anyways, this, I guess, chef beat up some guy. That's good stuff. Just some 70s racism.
I've
where
never
it's like
heard
a man with a
more
cigarette
shocking
and a bunch of papers in front of him doing a newscast. And in this story, I'm going to guess this fucking whatever. One of these fucking losers I hate. I'm not even going to say their race because I don't like it. Go for it.
This is the journalist. Sunglasses are part of it.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck did you wrestle sumo? You're so thin. I wasn't a sumo wrestler. Yeah. Tell it to someone who's stupid. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, every single journalist back then was Larry King. Where first of all, he had to like get off 10 minutes of questions about what he thought
Yeah.
based on how you look your life was, and then
So
once
wait
he
a minute.
recorded those, he'd be like, yeah.
Wait a minute. Your name's Antonio, and you're not from Italy.
It's breaking. That was the what was it? He I think it was it? Oh my god, was it the Benoit thing? Some very serious, either that or like all the wrestler deaths. Larry King was on with Hogan and Mick Foley, and then Hogan just casually mentioned something about a work, and then Larry King thought he got this huge fucking scoop because Hulk Hogan admitted wrestling was fake, and he was basically like, "Everyone, zoom in, say it again, Hulkster. I got the fucking scoop of the century. I'm Larry King. Pardon me, I just got divorced and married at the same time. First guy to do that."
The craziest one, though, was Larry King arguing with Jerry Seinfeld about whether or not the show Seinfeld was canceled.
That was great.
That's the most uncomfortable thing because it's two assholes. And there's nothing.
Yeah, there's no winner.
There's no win. The winner is all of us. And we actually lost because they both didn't die.
So in the 70s, obviously behind Inoki, New Japan is established as a major force of the industry because he signs Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, this is covered very extensively.
We watched this match by us on Instagram during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown.
Oh yeah.
This match is, of course, considered to be the birth of the UFC, and that it's very stupid, and Dana White and the Mafia profited off of it. And
yeah, and they were both paid in crypto.
Yeah, they were both paid on the FTX exchange, and that's gone well, by the way. So good.
This is the thing. 284-page book by Josh Gross if you really, really want to get into this. But the long story short, like all fun things, Ali was like, "This is going to be fake, right?" And Inoki was like, "No." And then, so then with that, basically, they made up some crazy rules. Ali had boxing gloves on, obviously, came out as a boxer. Inoki really wanted them to actually have kicks from standing, but he couldn't do that. So what he would do is just basically run, slide, and kick his legs, and then just be on his back for a really long time. And it looks really weird. He really fucked up Ali's legs, though, and there's a thought that after this fight, you can see Ali slow down in the ring because he doesn't have his legs under him truly anymore. I would say that is a lie, and he just got kicked in the legs a lot and probably lost, but also who cares because they didn't even really fight.
Muhammad Ali was paid $6 million for this, which is the equivalent of $36 million today. And this is the two things I enjoyed.
And a young Vince McMahon helped put this together.
A young Vince McMahon helped put this together. And also at one point it was agreed that it would be a winner-take-all purse. And Muhammad Ali shot back, "Does that include the wives?" as a clear reference to Antonio Inoki's new wife, famous Japanese actress, Mitsuko Bashua.
And then he fucked her and he fucked Inoki.
And then Muhammad Ali
had a sick ass key party.
Yeah, they had a sick ass key party.
It was the 70s.
Jim Ross was there. The other person that was involved, Jim Ross lost a bunch of his parents' money because he heavily invested in the closed circuit
yes
of this, and I assume has never forgiven both black people or Japanese people for that betrayal.
Here's something really funny. Bruno Sammartino had for years been pushing for a mixed match with Ali. Sammartino legitimately didn't like him. Of course he did. "When does he eat the pasta?"
Let me ask you a
That's
question, Muhammad.
Yeah.
Why won't you let me put the bear hug on you? Also, do you hate my son, Dave?
Sammartino himself was willing to risk a shoot, feeling a wrestler beats a boxer, but the risks were high, particularly for the WWF. Sammartino lost. Yeah.
Love wrestling at this period. I'm better than that guy. Why? I've beaten Stan Stasiak.
But like, of course that's not going to happen because Muhammad Ali, even back then, is making like $4 million a fight, and he doesn't need to prove anything, and he's also old. It's like 1976.
Yeah, this is the thing with wrestling, though. But wrestlers are like I understand how
Twitter.
crypto happened
like
because
Twitter,
yeah, it's exactly like it's anything, and it's also that sort of thing of like they Wrestling, especially at this period, is in a very interesting moment in that like martial arts and a lot of wrestling adjacent things are very popular, but we're still very much knee deep in the territories, localized sort of wrestling sort of
This is
things.
before consolidation.
This is completely before consolidation. But the one thing you have is Muhammad Ali is public and openly loves wrestling and has stolen a lot of wrestling tricks to accelerate and accentuate his career. So it's this weird push from all of the territorial promoters to try and get national access using Muhammad Ali. It is also totally an awareness, at least in the United States, but I'm sure Inoki is aware of this too, is globalization is coming. This is the beginning of big giant corporations, of a company being like not just one factory town, but being like a multinational conglomerate. You know what I mean? And I think wrestling companies, some of them were smart enough to be like, we need to figure out how to do that for us, which is why even at this point you had companies trying to go national and stuff like that. Like everyone acts like it was just Vince McMahon.
Well,
I
this is before.
Go ahead.
This is my very, very limited business knowledge, but this is basically before Ronald Reagan goes, "Hey, it doesn't matter if you fail a ton. Just the fact that you're trying means that like it'll get the economy up and running." Like that was his thought of it. So this is before. This is back when like going bankrupt actually mattered. So Vince McMahon is doing little shit, and then in the '80s, basically, he fucking. Basically, I guess the analogy I would put is Ronald Reagan makes going in. He's like, I'm not.
It's a very interesting thing. There's certainly Elvis sort of had that too, of that thing of like they couldn't get over they were addicted to being the greatest part of themselves as well. And it's a very interesting thing that I actually, speaking of Hulk Hogan, I think had it, and I think Antonio Inoki also had it. And that Antonio Inoki, you are right, he basically created a wrestling promotion by when I'm starting the Antonio Inoki Wrestling League, and it outlasted his competition. New Japan is the sort of cutting edge tip of the spear of indie cool pro wrestling. Like it is the hipster. Pardon me?
It's a new style, and it's very connected to that like World War II. Like this is also something I read on Dan Carlin, so please forgive me for this, or listen to a whole series on basically the Japanese side in World War II. But it's like connected to that like Bushido spirit, where it's like basically you hit each other to show how tough you are and how that we are strong. And Inoki totally represents that.
Yeah, it's very much. He's a giant, strong.
Not that Giant Baba was doing like fucking. You know what I mean?
No,
they weren't doing like fish out of water spots.
But they're doing different versions of the same thing. Giant Baba had structured his company where he's always conquering the American invader, is basically how he's presented. And Antonio Inoki, in all of these matches, is just presented as great, powerful Superman. He is the great, powerful Antonio, the chairman for like. He's always presented as this sort of like this kind of golden god who but is fallible. Do you know what I mean? It's a very interesting wrestling present. It's kind of like, imagine if John Cena also was a congressman for a bit, and we also just kind of never like, we were kind of always okay with John Cena. I've always been curious, what is the actual fan feeling about Antonio Inoki? I've always just made fun of him because it's funny to make fun of a guy with that kind of face. You know what I mean?
But it's also like
he looks like a fucking character you'd see in a Family Guy cutaway.
Yeah, he looks like a guy. He looks like what someone would draw your friend as when they're a caricature artist.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly right.
Every single feature is so like pronounced.
Yeah, and also like no steroids. That's just genetics. He just looks like
just
a
freak. Big fucking head. Well, honestly, if he did steroids, it would make his head look less weird.
Go ahead.
Because it's like, well, because his head's so fucking big, and the rest of his body's like a normal man's body.
I wouldn't say that. That guy's got
looks
the
like
weirdest...
a lollipop.
No, his neck is too short. It's like this.
You know how many people watched? So we just established one of his matches. 1 in 5 people in Japan.
That's so insane.
Okay, yeah. How many people watched the Lee match?
5 out of 5.
Pretty much 80 million people versus 112 million. So that's
holy shit.
That's literally 4 out of 6. 66% of the people. No, more than 66% of people watched.
Who would be an American equivalent as an athlete?
There's no, because like right now for Ali, literally it's like if Floyd
That's
Mayweather.
insane. That would be like if Jake Paul. It'd be like Logan Paul would have to also be Floyd Mayweather.
But it's kind
So
of like
Jake Paul. He'd have to be his brother, Jake Paul.
but like
Antonio Inoki is Jake Paul. Go ahead.
but it would literally be kind of like if Jake Paul no, it'd be like if Roman Reigns fought, I don't know, man.
It's impossible to
Mike
say.
Tyson in the 90s. Literally be like 90s Mike Tyson versus The Rock, and The Rock didn't lose. Because I know it looks weird.
The way that
And
they
Ali
have
did
to do
win,
this is,
but like all of the shit you'd show from this fight would be Inoki kicking Ali.
What you'd have to it would have to be Donald Trump. If it was like, I also don't think Donald Trump, the Battle of the Billionaires, if you did it now and it was Donald Trump versus Bobby Lashley, for the freedom of Derek Chauvin, I don't think you're getting 80 million people watching that match.
There was actually an old cassette tape that was uncovered and aired and played to Inoki where a discussion between the parties took place, making it clear it was a work. It was very embarrassing to play it on television with Inoki right there, since to the public in Japan, it was always billed like it was a battle of mythical fighters with different rules to determine the best heavyweight fighter. A finish was arranged where both sides would save face. Ali would brutalize Inoki with a flurry of rapid-fire punches. Inoki would blade and be covered in blood. Ali would continue landing punch after punch to the bloody head. Gene LaBelle, the referee, wouldn't stop it. Ali would act merciful, as if he didn't want to hurt Inoki anymore. He would argue with LaBelle. Inoki would get up, hit the enziguri, and Ali would go down for the count. Ali's side would claim to be merciful. Inoki would be the hero who was down and out. But it wouldn't stay down even after taking punches from the greatest boxer of all time. He'd be the hero who survived the beating and pulled out the win using a martial arts move, proving in the end Japanese martial arts could even beat the greatest boxer of all time. That was the original thought. Ali was being paid $6 million, more than he had ever earned in a real fight, largely to turn Inoki into a worldwide celebrity and a bigger national hero. So this is like imagine if Mike Tyson actually wrestled a match at WrestleMania. I guess this is like Austin and Tyson, but they actually fought each other.
Austin and Tyson, Tyson and Austin. Yeah, it's very fascinating. And then the economic fallout of all of it is so fascinating that they basically all lost a bunch of fucking money. And it became a complicated legacy for them for the rest of their life. Made even more complicated by Inoki's insistence that his theme song, Inoki Boombaye, which is literally just from Ali Boombaye from the Rumble in the Jungle. Like, there's also this weird thing.
Well, he took him afterwards. He took that on afterwards because
I understand, but even still, to do that when like the fallout of all this is this great disgrace, it would still be weird that you were like, yeah, but I still am gonna fuck. That's a good song though. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that Antonio Inoki is the most fascinating narcissist I've ever encountered in pro wrestling, in that he could dissipate all of his mistakes and follies, but he's like, no. Keep the song. You're like, that'll just remind people of like your horrible deception. And he went, it won't. And then they're like, oh, it will. And it did. Like, that's what's fascinating about Inoki is Inoki, more than even McMahon, is just so convinced that he's going to be fine. And because he just doesn't fucking sell it, he is.
I mean, well, this is the thing. Ali didn't want to do the job because he thought that losing he would be disrespecting boxing. So they agreed to weird shoot rules. And this is the crazy thing where it's like, to show the lack of knowledge of real fighting, the keys Ali sides wanted banned were closed fist punches because Inoki wasn't wearing gloves, no flying drop kicks as if that would happen in a fight, no karate chops. This is the 70s. They were like, you can't karate chop me, and obviously no grappling or anything. Because if there was grappling, it would have just been like, especially with Ali wearing gloves because he didn't want to mess his hands up, he would have just like, okay, even if he knew how to grapple, he would have been fucked. Because like the guy's got bare hands, he would have been able to just choke him the fuck out. After agreeing to the rules, Inoki claimed to have challenged Ali to a winner-take-all purse, and Ali shot back, including wives, and then fucked his wife right there. And Inoki said, "Well, good thing I'm into this." Went into a little closet. Everyone had a good time. All the cameras obviously took pictures and high-fived. And that's what porn was invented. John?
That's right. Dylan and I were there when porn was invented. What he just said was correct.
I was also there in 1976.
We were both there, and we love it.
We were reverse baby ghosts.
So we were old demons?
Sure. If you want to watch this, it's a lot.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it. It ended up being a draw. The boxing judge scored it for Inoki, which is very funny. One judge scored it. Like, basically, this is something that
I'm going to say this right now.
Right.
That old boxing judge was being racist. He was like, well, who's
the boxing judge was an Asian man. He was a Japanese man. Ko Toyama.
Oh, so I was about to make a joke, but you know what? I still stand by it. He was like, well, no, Inoki wins.
So basically this is what the A side in any boxing has the cards. So basically you're only looking at one card because like both sides have usually bought a card in any huge fight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's exactly what happened. It was a draw. Jean LaBelle ended up being one scored it for Ali, one scored it for Inoki, and Jean LaBelle scored it as a draw.
And so they both never got paid, and Inoki, boom by age. You know what?
It reminds me of the XFL where everyone watched it, and because I remember going towards the XFL, asking people around school before the XFL, and then coming to school on Monday and like, oh, what'd you think about it when you watched it? And everyone was upset because it wasn't like good enough for people that liked football, and people that liked wrestling were like, why wasn't like anyone put through a table?
Yeah, it was that's a great point. It's also that combination doesn't make any sense where it's like, let's combine these two food groups. And it's like, no, that'll be good. We will be then making sure to never highlight the things that anyone likes about these things.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And then this is also the closed circuit match that accompanied this in the U.S. was San Martino coming back from a broken neck against Stan Hansen. 32,000 fans at Shea Stadium. And then they watched Inoki versus Ali afterwards.
And wasn't also Hulk Hogan on that card in a cape?
I don't know.
No, I think he's on I think there's a different time. There's a different Shea Stadium match where Hulk Hogan is in a cape and he looks so young and yet so old. It's the only time Hulk Hogan looked like he smoked.
This was dope too. After the fight, Ali was promised obviously $6 million, but ended up getting $1.8 million according to the lawsuit.
And Inoki only got 200,000, was promised $2 million. It's
he
real
got $2
great.
million. Oh, he only got 200,000.
He claimed he only got 200,000. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Which I also don't know how that happened. Like, it's also the thing of like, because I assume
everyone got fucked over.
Like, how bad is the promotion where one of the promoters gets fucked?
Jesus Christ! Decades later, when Paul Levesque made a deal for San Martino going in the Hall of Fame, one of San Martino's demands he would get 250,000, which he said Vince's father owed him from that fight. That's sick.
I love Bruno. Bruno Sammartino is such a petty father. Like, that's such a dad. Like,
I like that. Yeah, I like anyone who's like.
I guarantee he called David that day. David, it's your father. I've been made whole by Vince Sr. Perhaps you'd like to apologize to me for all the times I was mean to you.
That's so, and you know that like it's just a fucking weird. Like Bruno Sammartino absolutely has every single dollar he ever made because he's figured out how to live and somehow pay rent on just having no money. You give him old pants.
Yeah.
These pants are made up of smaller pants I found on the streets. Don't ask me how.
I'll pay your rent, but first we each have to do German squats. Who does more? That's who pays the rent. I am a debt collector, Mr. Sammartino. I am paid in cash, or are you paid in squats?
I guarantee that Bruno Sammartino had to be talked down for making his Hall of Fame speech just about different traffic and how bad it was from his diary.
Well, did you not?
Just read from what happened in your match diary. Although that's just about how hard it was to get there and which highways are fast.
Very nice to be here at the Hall of Fame. Let me begin my speech.
Here are the best highways in order.
Yeah, April 1st, 1981. Best highway so far. Route 1, New Jersey Turnpike. Best highway, number 2. Highway I don't know the name of, near but not too close to Detroit.
You know what would be really fun is, and I think this was a missed opportunity for Vince Sr., would have been Bruno. We're off the topic now, whatever. Bruno Sammartino. Yeah. Like you have like, but because Bruno really was the original kind of Undertaker figure for Vince in the 70s, where it's like you have the title, but then Bruno is like just there, and you know your promotion's in trouble if you have to push Bruno, because that's like consolidating both. You want two main events, you don't want just one super main event, but just getting, the title is like Bob Backlund versus superstar Billy Graham, and then the co-main event is like Bruno Sammartino versus a customer service professional of the audience's choosing. Just like everyone's pissed off at the service at Starbucks, so Bruno Sammartino versus just some poor manager of a Starbucks, and he just tells them how he wanted his coffee made and then what they did wrong, and then they get beaten up for as long as he had to wait in line.
There's something you should know. The
25 minutes to do this. Get out of here.
It was properly made and given to me in an appropriate manner, but for how cold it was like I waited for 25 minutes. Also,
and he just slaps them.
I guarantee Bruno Sammartino does not know what his wife's voice sounds like.
Yeah. Then something I assume happens because I see your face, and I taught myself to not hear women.
He once
took a while.
He once saw his wife go into a toilet, and he had to be talked down from divorce. She's cheating on me with that toilet. She's peeing, Bruno. It's cheating.
So basically, this is the thing. People say Ali Inoki is a prelude to
No,
MMA.
it's not. That would be like
if
someone
anything,
dropping a guitar is a prelude to rock and roll. Like it's like no, like.
Yeah. This is the other thing about true. This is the thing about people complain about. Well, I mean, I know some people complain about like, real fighting and how UFC works, because they have rounds, and they will, if they stall out in a position, they'll have them stand up. If anything, I think this fight pushed mixed martial arts back like 10 years, because you're like, oh yeah, then it'll just be super boring. And it will sometimes. Like, I forget which UFC it is, but it's like, super fight. Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie. Literally, Ken Shamrock takes him down and just lies on top of him for 1 whole hour. Like, that's what happens sometimes when it's like, this is essentially a stalemate. So, it's a sport, so let's make it fun for people to watch. Like, if someone actually, and this is the other thing, is like both sides kind of have to have no, they have to have no leverage, which clearly Ali had the leverage to make it like actually like a proper thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. The fight was not viewed well in Japan at the time because of who was involved, and the popularity of MMA is now viewed completely differently. But in the US, it's not nearly as well known, and Inoki, to people who lived in the 70s, vaguely remembered by sports fans and even the public as a Japanese wrestler or martial artist or karate guy or whatever with the big jaw Ali fought in the farce of a fight. And most people just think it's straight up like it was Inoki was scared, so he just sat on his butt. That's the other thing. So the optics, what actually happened says one thing, and the optics another thing. But it was still one of the biggest sporting events of all time.
It's really one of those things too. It's like they set a fire, and then that fire warmed a bunch of orphaned children, so it gets remembered as being very nice, and no one realizes that they were burning a bunch of old people. That's what the Ali Inoki fight is. Like, it's like this unmitigated disaster taught these kids to read.
Yeah, it was like, and it was very, because you can't just have something like, oh yeah, that sucked. Everyone has to read into anything when that many people
that's
watch
a very
it.
good
They
point.
can't just be like,
it's such
a circus.
Problem. That's such a problem with wrestling in particular, is
with
everything. Yeah, but like wrestling really loves it. What does this mean? It's like, it means that CM Punk's an asshole. That's what it means. Like, but what's the deeper meaning to the fallout from All Out? It's like a guy with that many chest tattoos is probably a cunt. That's what that means. You're like,
yeah, he reminds me of like, he's like any fucking head chef you bring into a restaurant who's like, yeah, he's a great chef, but he's fucked. Oh, well, he would bring some great food, but he's fucked, so he's gone.
Here's who CM Punk reminds me of. All of the guys who told me, you just sometimes have to just go out there and get pussy, and then all those guys, suddenly their social media disappeared around Me Too in 2017. That's who CM Punk reminds me of. Yeah, all of the people that taught improv in Toronto until the fall of 2017, you all have deep CM Punk energy.
Yeah, well, anyway, as years went by, Shinma managed to erase the bad memories and cover up the stench left by the rotten match by booking Inoki to win against martial arts superstars like karate world champion Eddie Everett, a rematch with Ruska, Olympic judo bronze medalist who would become Bad News Allen, Allen's Coolidge, Chuck Wepner, who went 12 rounds with Ali and is the basis for Rocky, and numerous others. Basically, Inoki did what I thought was really cool, which what they did with Taz in ECW, which was let's bring in these like middling martial artists and he'll beat the shit out of them.
It's really interesting too. That's exactly what they did. Basically, Taz is New York area, is the tri-state area Antonio Inoki, in that he just has a job on radio, and his son seems okay.
He kept. And this is the great thing that I think it's so smart for him to do this. Be like, oh yeah, Baba, you enjoy fighting your professional wrestlers. I'm a real fighter. I fight real athletes, and
It's
then
so
just
funny
has weird, shitty matches against them.
Everything really just comes back down to Baba and Inoki don't like each other. Like, how often do you think the two of them called each other at 4:00 in the morning? I feel like there was a lot of like, I made more money than you. Fucking.
Oh, and then 1977, December 8th, Inoki has a famous match against the Grand Antonio, who was a big draw against Ricky Dozan. We talked about that in the Ricky Dozan episode. And then he no-sells a bunch of Inoki strikes. And honestly, one of the most vicious knockouts I've seen, where it's like, and then he went, like, most wrestling matches really disappoint, where it's like, he fucking wouldn't sell for him, so he fucking stiffed him. And, like, even the famous APA versus the Public Enemy is like, yeah, I mean, they're really hitting these guys, but it's like they're also still wrestling. Like, they're not actually punching them. They're just like they're just hitting them more than you would if you were just like working the whole thing completely. But Antonio Inoki actually gets mad and just knocks him the fuck out. It's fucking crazy. Stomps the shit out of him and kicks his fucking ass. This is still a dick move because, like, this guy's in a foreign country. Like, what's he gonna do? Start fucking wailing on Antonio Inoki and take his fucking life into his hands?
Well, either way, Antonio is going to fucking. Here's the thing that I always want to come back to with Antonio Inoki building his legacy this way is that it's sort of the smartest thing ever, because he's also never going to be unseated. There's never going to be a way. There's never going to be a time where someone's going to do this way again. Even with like, it's one of those things where it's kind of legacy proof in that Antonio Inoki will always be part of the conversation in a way that Giant Baba will not be, because he kind of used the outside world's athletic energy to fuel his own company and his legacy. It's incredibly intelligent, but there's no way he could have known this at the time. I think he just was like, I'll beat these other people and it'll make me look good. But it weirdly created himself this odd legacy that will live on longer than Giant Baba. And that I don't think that modern wrestling fans are really aware of Giant Baba. And Inoki is definitely like, it was an event that he died.
The whole thing that Antonio Inoki did versus
failed and then succeeded. It's the weirdest thing. It's like it's like if he jumped Snake. It's like if Evel Knievel jumped Snake River Canyon and then a bunch of seeds fell out of his pocket and then created a rainforest that saved the earth. Like, that's what it's like. Like, this was a horrible idea at the time, and then we didn't know the internet was going to be created, and we didn't know on the internet it would mostly be just dudes with arm fat being like, well, actually, this is actually the beginning of this. And then that created a legacy for the Tone Man.
Inoki only had like a couple true shoot matches, and there was the most interesting one is against, and I'm gonna fuck this up, so let's go, baby.
Here we go.
In 1979 with 1979 against Yahara Pahlawan of Pakistan.
Whee!
The Pahlawan match was in a large stadium in his home country. It was a work gone awry with the hometown hero going against the script, shooting on Inoki and biting him.
Favorite part.
He bit him. He bit the fucking shit. At the time, he was 46 years old. When he tried to shoot on Inoki, Inoki had a little trouble with him, dominated on the ground in the second round, broke his arms using a Kimura from the bottom to sweep and submit him before 40,000 fans in the National Stadium in Karachi. It was probably the scariest moment of Inoki's life because a riot was about to break out, and as legend has it, guns were being cocked and aimed his direction. But in a traditional post-match wave, to the fans in Pakistan, the fans saw a symbolic gesture that he was thanking Allah for the win, and thus he turned out okay. It was largely hidden in Japan because Inoki lost. Just as famous in Pakistan was the June 17th, 1979 match where Inoki against Yahara Pahlawan before 30,000 people in Gaddafi Stadium in Karachi, Pakistan. The match is also available on the internet. What it was supposed to be going on. That's Hobson. messed that one up. Anyway.
Yeah, Hobson's on amphetamines. What was supposed to be going on is anyone's guess, but it would make no more sense in 1979 for Inoki to do a high-profile shoot as it would be in 1986 for Hulk Hogan to do one. But it very clearly ended up being something as a real fight. There were no punches to the face, but there were to the body blows, headbutts, and mostly wrestling. Pehlivan was clearly stronger and wearing Inoki out, who couldn't get much offense and was mostly on his back, never threatened with a submission. But Pehlivan had wrestling skill and no finishing skill. They went. 5-minute rounds before time expired. In Japan, it was reported as a draw, notably because in theory that would lead to a rematch that never happened. In actuality, Pehlivan was ruled the winner via decision. In Japan, it was like Backlund versus Inoki in the U.S. and was pretty much hidden from history. This is the other weird thing is he like goes international to make cash for the company.
Yeah, and also like you need to do that just so you're fresh. Like you can't just stay there winning. And also by this point, he probably feels like he's evolved past being a wrestler and kind of needs to do stuff like to rejuvenate the company in a weird way. Like just to kind of keep he's got it started a couple years ago and now he just wants to diversify himself and be like, I am the king of wrestling. I've evolved past wrestling. It's not as crazy as it would get, where it's like the man just clearly never wants to die.
Yeah. I am the future. I am king. I am God King, here to make all.
Apparently, Inoki became a huge cultural figure in Pakistan based off those two matches, because it makes sense. He beat his uncle, and then he lost to his the uncle's nephew. So obviously, pardon me, but Yahara was 19 at the time he fought Inoki, which is just not fair. And Akram was the older man who Inoki broke both his arms. So that makes sense. That's a proper thing. You come in, you beat the old guy, give the new guy his shine. That totally makes sense, even in a professional wrestling thing. Also, it's in Pakistan, so it's like there's no world media at this time, so who fucking cares? Like Floyd Mayweather doing all these weird boxing matches in Japan, people just like kind of know about it and that it's happening, but it's like, yeah, no one would know what this was fucking happening at all. You'd read about it in a book if Mayweather was around in like the 70s. No one would have any fucking idea.
So
He's
fucking
like
nuts.
knocking out Instagram stars in Japan for some reason, which is like. He talks about how much money he has, but it's like clearly you wasted all of it. Continue, John.
It would be like if, and this is sort of what is happening now with wrestling. It'd be kind of like if the WWE for most of their money in the year would do like 1 or 2 pay-per-views in like a despot like country and just act like that doesn't affect the rest of the card the rest of the year. I wonder if they would ever do that.
Hey, buddy, that's what they put the fucking Logan Paul.
I know that's the joke.
That's good stuff. I like it. Let's do our biggest matches: The Rock versus Roman in Russia.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, WrestleMania 30, whatever the fuck it is this year, will be coming to you live from the borders of Poland and Ukraine.
His fondness for Pakistan and the Muslim religion led to his changing his real name to Muhammad Hassan Inoki. He considered Muhammad Ali Inoki, but Hassan was in fact after Saddam Hussein because of the negotiations to release. But Hussein was in fact after Saddam Hussein because of their negotiations to release Japanese hostages. There's no mention of when he changed that name because maybe it was like, I like the Saddam Hussein guy who seems young. Well, hopefully he doesn't grow up to do anything weird on a world stage.
Let me ask you this. That guy with the mustache who's got all the pistols. He seems fun. Yeah. He keeps talking about a coup.
It's pretty sweet to like something and then just change your name to it. Like that's why I'm Skittles Dylan Gott. I'm loving those Skittles. Taste that rainbow.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by me, John Altoids.
The last thing, I will just drop off here at that weird note, and then we'll pick it up next week.
We will pick it up talking more about Muhammad Hussein Inoki. Can I just say that did they get the conspiracy theory that Barack Obama was a Muslim from just reading about Antonio Inoki?
I don't know.
I've never heard of a pro wrestler who loves dictators more than this man. Oh, I have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan, what's the best thing about Antonio Inoki in this period? I have mine. Best thing, he just keeps having fights with people in parts of the world, then going back to Japan. They're like, why are you bruised? The airplane trip was rough.
I like
Also,
that
he's
he,
running a company at this point, and then just flying to Karachi to break a local's arm. I love him so much.
I like 70s wrestling because it is truly like the equivalent of like remember those 90s you'd see Japanese commercials where we didn't know about that like Tom Hanks was in just because they
Yeah,
give him an ass load of cash. This is Antonio Inoki's where it's like I'll go have a shoot fight some weird place in the world that doesn't exist because he clearly has an itch for actually fighting people, and you get to fill it in a way that doesn't hurt you at all because after the Ali thing, it didn't go the way he wanted. So he just had to get his itch filled somewhere else, and he's like, "I'll just go fight these guys in Pakistan because no one will ever hear about how this happened or what happened. I can win, I can lose. It doesn't fucking matter."
It's also just like it feels made up. It feels like a story. A kid who lies is like, "Oh, where were you?" I was like, "I was just in Karachi, Pakistan, for a bag of money wrestling." You're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Antonio
Anyway,
Inoki might be the most fascinating wrestler of all time.
I like it because it is really like just Hogan just did fucking. Well, I guess Hogan did go to Japan and just win and lose freely because no one fucking paid attention in the 90s or the 80s. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah, still fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. I have to go. I'm about
The
to.
worst thing is you can't do stuff like this anymore. You're
It
on
is,
the
it is the
fucking,
worst stuff. It's
no
also
one can take risks, really. Once you're
What's
the
also
public eye, you're in.
what's also sad about it is also it's just the wrestling has lost this type of crazy where it's just like, what do you think? It's like I think that I could beat up. I guarantee Antonio Inoki.
It's
If
just
he
good
went,
CM Punk, maybe.
yeah,
He could actually beat people up.
If Antonio Inoki walked by a military base, he'd be like, I could beat that army, and he'd have to be physically stopped from going in and attacking a tank. Oh, armbar the tank.
Yeah, the tank will tap out. It'll be fucking bitch ass tank. Yeah, but yeah, that's like clearly Antonio Inoki was just like that. You're right. Like that level of crazy, that pro wrestler crazy, where we've talked about it before. You need to have a mental disorder, or B, genuinely you could beat up the sun to be a pro wrestler because they want to see you actually suspend you. They want to. You want to suspend your disbelief and believe that guy thinks he could win this fight.
Yeah,
And Inoki was great at it because he thought he could actually beat people up, and could in some cases beat up old men.
Speaking of beating up old men, I gotta go take a shit. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Off.
See you, buddy.
See you, buddy.